Hello, and thank you for clicking on this video. This presentation is going to be a good bit different than what I normally do on this channel. Ordinarily, I'm talking about some controversial aspect of the Christian faith, some issue of theology or something that's in the news or what have you. Tonight, though, I want to talk to you about something that's much more personal in nature, much more personal and very important to myself and my family and to many other families that we know. And that's the issue of life with special needs, being a special needs parent, a special needs caregiver. And this is prompted for two reasons. There are two appeals that I'm going to make based on what I'm about to share with you. And all I can do is ask that you listen and just fairly consider what I'm about to say. Recently, it came to my attention that a complaint was made in one of the stores in the area in which we live against a boy and his father. The boy is severely autistic. I don't believe he's very verbal, if he is at all. He mutters, makes noises. I've seen him many times in the store that I work in and in other stores in the area. Most of the time, he's just smiling and humming and that sort of thing. Well, his father took him into one of the larger retailers recently. Sometimes I see him out with his dad fairly often. Dad will take him into a store, a big store like that, and they'll just kind of walk around for a while. Apparently, they're trying to get out, in a place where it's not too hot, and just walk around a little bit, get some exercise or what have you. And this boy's harmless. He will make his sounds, he will smile at people, that kind of thing. He'll walk by and touch things on the wall or whatever as he goes by. And sometimes he'll sit down in an aisle. And I understand that could be an inconvenience to people who are trying to shop. Well, in this case, someone complained about the boy and his father and basically said that their presence in the store made them uncomfortable, that they would rather not have to deal with that. And I guess they wanted the store to tell them not to come back anymore. And, I can understand that special needs people will make many people uncomfortable. They don't look right. A lot of times they don't look normal. They may not always smell very good. They will make noises. They'll rock and they'll make loud ooh ah type sounds and that kind of stuff a lot of times. Sometimes they will yell. I don't see as much of that, but sometimes they do it. They'll do things like that. Sometimes they may walk by you and touch you, or they may speak to you, and that can make a lot of people uncomfortable. Again, especially because some of them just physically don't look quite right as well. It puts people on the spot. People don't like being touched by strangers. I get it. I understand all of that. What I would like to do, though, in this case, if something did happen, a child did do something inappropriate, I could understand telling the parents, the guardian, whatever, we can't have that here. Nothing against you, but we can't allow that to go on. It's a danger to our customers or whatever. I can see a situation where you might ask somebody not to come back for that reason. But in a case where someone is really not hurting anybody, is just maybe making some strange sounds and this sort of thing, is it really necessary to complain? I wonder. I mean, you're in the store for a few minutes, and maybe you want to go shopping down that aisle and you just don't want to go down where that person is or whatever, and you feel inconvenienced by it. Okay. But what I would like you to do is just think about a couple of things with me for a few minutes tonight, if I can make that appeal. And, many people who might watch this, you've encountered situations like this and you've been wonderful. And we run into a lot of really nice people out there. There are people who will see us out with our son sometimes, and we try not to take him into stores because it is very awkward and problems ensue, especially in stores, because he's manic. If he sees something, he might want to grab it, and it can be very, very difficult to turn that off. So we try not to do that. But when we're just out and about with him or whatever, we see people walking by, and a lot of times people will smile. Sometimes someone will say, thinking about you, I know somebody that's got a special needs kid too. We understand a little about what you're doing. And when you encounter that kind of thing, it's absolute gold. It's wonderful. And, just blessings to all of you who have shown kindness, not just to us, but to all of the families dealing with these issues. It really is a wonderful thing when people react that way. But a lot of times that's also not the case. My wife and I have both experienced situations where we'll be out with our son, or have been in the past, and something has happened. He has acted up in some way, especially in a store, which is the reason why we don't really take him in stores anymore, because we have had some real, basically knockdown dragouts with him in them. I remember in a Food Lion one time, he got upset that I would not buy him 2 bags of chips. I would only buy the one. And he attacked me. He bit me. He hit me. He was screaming. It was really quite a scene. And I can imagine what that looked like to other people. Well, we've been through situations like that, and we have heard people in the background say things. And it's kind of clear that, they're not going to come up and get in your face. They're not going to yell it out. They're not going to say it really loudly. But it seems like they want to say it just loudly enough that you will probably hear it. They're pretty sure you're going to hear what they're saying. And they'll say something like, that kid needs to be smacked. Or, I would never let my kid get by with that. Or, that's just outrageous. How can you allow something like that to go on? This kind of stuff. You hear these comments. And when that kind of thing happens, I really wonder, kids cause issues in stores. I get that, and people are always looking at somebody who's fighting with a child over something and thinking, well, that's not good parenting or whatever. People make their judgments. Everybody does that, I guess. But when it comes to a situation like this, it strikes me as odd that they can't stop long enough to see that there's something wrong with this person. This is not a brat just throwing a fit in the store. This is not a discipline problem. This is a mental problem. This is a real issue of some kind. And why they feel it necessary to make those kind of comments just escapes me. I mean, do you not see that this person is not normal? Can you not see that? And if you can, why is a comment like that necessary? Trust me, smacking them is not going to help. It is not going to help. And I wonder, when people react that way, not only are they just rushing to a snap judgment and apparently can't see that there's a special situation going on there, some of them can see it. I've seen people online make statements like that, to the effect of, well, those kids, those people should keep those kids home. They should never take them out. They shouldn't be inconveniencing people like that or causing scenes in public like that. They should keep them home, keep them away from people. I've seen things like that, and I've seen a lot of worse things. And it kind of amazes me. On the one hand, put yourself for just a minute in the shoes of someone like my son, or someone with a similar special need, with a severe disability, a mental disorder, a neurological problem of some kind. Imagine just seeing the things that you see them do. Can you imagine doing that, being that way yourself? And then let's say that one day, suddenly, something clears up in your mind, in your brain, and you're normal. But you remember everything that happened before. You remember all of the incidents. You remember everything you used to do and how you used to act. Can you imagine how ashamed you would feel? How horrified you would be looking back on your own past behavior and thinking, good Lord, I used to be like that. People saw me do these things. Put yourself in their shoes for just a minute and think about it that way. What would you feel like if you could have some kind of awareness? And to be honest with you, many of these special needs kids and these young adults and all, that they don't have normal awareness. They don't think normally, but many of them do feel a genuine frustration, and at times almost seem to feel shame of their own behavior. Our son has done things, and then later on he has come back and apologized in his own way. He can't speak again, and he hasn't uttered a word since he was about 18 months old. But he will walk up to us, and he'll come up and he'll hug you. He'll try to. He'll stroke your hair or something like that, and it's obvious that he's trying to make up for what happened. He's not normal. He doesn't think or act normally. He doesn't have normal awarenesses, but still something within him is aware that it isn't right, that what's happened is wrong, and he feels some kind of regret. He feels frustration, obviously, many times. And some of these autistic fits, some of these violent situations that special needs people get into really does stem from frustration, inability to communicate, inability to control themselves. They react to stimuli differently than normal people do. Noise grates on them a lot more. My son usually has earplugs in of some kind. He used to wear headphones all the time. Now he likes these wax earplugs. He's very sensitive to loud sounds. They can be out and anything like that can happen. Anything unexpected can happen. Many times they can be triggered by a change in routine that's not normal for them. They know generally things go this way. If you're familiar with special needs kids at all and education, special needs education, you know that they will storyboard a day sometimes. They will come up with a social story, and they'll draw little pictures, get in the car in the morning, go to school, eat lunch, do this, do that, come home. They will lay the day out so the kid knows what to expect. And then something happens and disrupts that routine, and the person does not understand that. It's very disruptive, and it can set them off. Any number of things can do it. So just thinking about that for a minute, as difficult as it may be, put yourself as best you can in the position of someone like that. Just enough to show compassion, to think, how would I want people to react if that was me? If I was doing that and I couldn't help myself? Would I want people to say these things about me? Or would I want them to show me patience, kindness? And beyond that, also the parents and the caregivers. I can only, and that's part of what I'm trying to do here, I can only just open the door a little bit and let you glimpse into the life of a special needs family. It's not like anything many of you can imagine, to be frank. We've had people many times tell us, we don't know how you do what you do and stay sane. Not to try to elicit sympathy or woe is me or make you feel guilty that you have a normal life, what we would call a normal life. You know, everybody has problems. I get that. Everybody's got some they're working through. Everybody's got their frustrations and their stresses. Life with special needs, especially with severe special needs, is just a different planet. It's extremely isolating. It's incredibly stressful at times. You can have your good days. You also have a lot of really bad days. And on any average day, you're dealing with a lot of stress and a lot of weird situations that nothing in your life ever prepared you for. There's just nothing anybody could have told you when you were growing up that could have accustomed you to the idea that someday you are going to have to deal with this. This will be your life. Just to give you kind of a look at what we deal with. You know, our son, for one thing, you know, can you throw trash away at your house? I mean, when you get done with something, can you just throw it in the trash? And it actually goes outside and gets picked up, taken to the dump. We can try, but this is a battle in our house because our son likes to hoard things. Packages, containers, wrappers, cans, bottles, anything you can think of. everything you could think of. And it doesn't matter whether he uses these things or not. He has a very limited diet. He doesn't eat a whole lot of stuff. Doesn't eat a lot of the food that we eat, my wife and I, the rest of the family. But he wants to save everything. He doesn't want you to throw anything away. You get done with, say, a bottle of Mountain Dew or something, you try to throw it in a trash can. Later on, you're going to find it on top of the china cabinet, along with the remnants of the last pasta dinner that he cooked for himself, because he can make little dinners. He can do little things like that. He knows how to heat up things in the microwave. He'll eat the noodles, but the vegetables and the broccoli and all that sort of thing, he will not eat that. He'll save that, put it aside in a little dish, and then when we're not looking, he'll hide it somewhere. He'll dump it on top of the china cabinet. That's why I've cleaned up, I don't know how many messes up there now. It's for some reason one of his favorite places to dump leftovers that are food that he won't eat. You can imagine what that looks like after it's sat up there for a while, and you walk through the house and you're like, what is that smell? And you can't find anything because it never occurs to you, let me look on top of the china cabinet and see if there might be some rotting vegetables up there. That just is not a thought that enters most people's heads. He has taken hamburger patty packages that we have taken out and again put in the trash, and just taken that and stuck it someplace. It's a package that has had meat in it, and he doesn't eat it. I don't know why he wants it, but he'll stuff it someplace. And he's very quick about this. You've really got to be on your toes. Usually most nights I will check, or most days I will check the trash can several times. And I will finally just bag it all up at night, wrap the thing up, and take it out and put a new liner in there, because I know that if I don't, when I go to bed, he's going to go through there and pull as much stuff as he can out, and we're going to find it in the back of the silverware drawer. We're going to find it everywhere, or we won't find it in some cases until it's a problem. Other instances I could tell you about, he will get angry with us if we don't get certain things that he wants. He loves things like popsicles and brownies and all sorts of things. He wants to eat a lot more of than he should have, and we won't get all of the stuff that he wants. We might get him one or two things, but we're not going to fulfill the whole list. But when he gets angry with us over something like that, he will take his vengeance out in certain ways. He has gone in before and gotten our clothes and found something and torn them up with them. You'll just, go on to go to pull a pair of jeans out to go to work or whatever, and I find that they're in shreds. He's done that to my wife and me both. And then he'll hide them. Sometimes he will, if he doesn't want you to go to work until you've gone to the store, or he doesn't want my wife to go someplace, or he doesn't want me, say, to take a certain car, he will hide the car keys if he can get them. He'll take your shoes and throw them in the sink and turn the water on, or other clothing that you have. He has various ways of taking his anger out. And unfortunately, on some cases, he will physically attack us. Usually it's my wife, because she can't handle him physically. He has knocked her down. He has torn her hair out. Usually it's over things that are unbelievably simple. He wants us to go to a store, or he wants us to take him to a store. And we know this because even though he can't speak, he can write certain things. He can trace certain things. He can see the shape of the letters for, say, Walmart or something like that. And he will write it on the calendar. And he wants to go that day. Sometimes he will want to go. He will want you to take him because he wants to just grab everything in sight, shove it in a buggy. And again, you have like a professional wrestling event trying to get out of that store. I have had to haul him out of the store while my wife goes back and puts things back, and just tries to get him a few things. He got out of a church respite program one time. My wife and I were off doing something one night, and we had taken him, dropped him off at the church special needs program. They understood what they were dealing with, but he got away from them, and he was quick. Out the door. Suddenly he's running through the neighborhood behind the church. He's going into people's houses, trying to get popsicles out of their fridges, that sort of thing. The police got involved. Again, naturally, you have to call them at this point. People in the neighborhood are calling them because they see what's going on. And the whole time, that this is happening before he's found. You're just praying that he doesn't walk into the wrong house where somebody's going to hurt him, or a dog is going to jump him, or that he's not just going to run out in the road, because a lot of times he will walk around like this, covering his head or putting a blanket over his head or something like that, and he will just go. He could walk out in front of a car, anything like that. He could be severely injured or worse. And so we are always, even though now, we haven't had an incident for so long, there's always that thought in the back of your mind. Did I shut the door right? Is it locked down? Is he going to figure something new out? What kind of call am I going to get? There have been days where I'm at work, my wife calls me. Fortunately, the people at my work understand. They're very accommodating. I've had to run out the door. I've had to come back and pull him off of my wife at times, or settle him down, because she could not handle him. He was getting violent. He was angry. He'll grab anything sharp and cut himself when he gets like that. So you find yourself in all of these kinds of situations. And so much more that I could go into. So many things that nothing prepares you for. Autistic people, they don't take care of themselves. They do some fairly disgusting things sometimes. Fortunately, he doesn't have some of those issues that some do. We don't have it as bad as some families do. There's one family we knew where their son would chew through his mattress. They finally had to find a mattress he couldn't do that to. Our son does not chew through his mattress, fortunately. He won't keep the sheets on it either. He will make his bed up and he will just throw everything back off of it, but he doesn't try to eat it, at least. But then other things, the trash situation I've mentioned before, we got a call from the neighbor one time telling us, we've got 3 of your trash bags in our yard. And fortunately, they were very kind. They were understanding. They had a special needs child themselves. And we have finally found something of a remedy for that. When we moved, we had to box a lot of things up, put his name on his things, took him to a storage place and set him there. And he saw us do this. And then when we moved into the new house, we brought boxes in that had his name on it, but we did not bring the things that had items we wanted to throw away. So now what we do is, when he has a collection of a certain amount of stuff together, we will go in, box it up, put the same name on it, and say, off to storage, James. Storage being the Lexington County landfill. So we have managed to work with that at least a little bit, even though he lets go very reluctantly. But as long as it's in that magic box with his name on it, taped up like it's going to the storage place, we survive. One other thing I'll tell you about, since speaking of the new house, we moved in and we discovered that the people who had been doing renovations, who sold us the house, did not finish the renovations in the upstairs bathroom. There's a section underneath the sink, which goes almost all the way to the floor, so you can't see it. You'd have to go down there looking for this. The flooring they put in, there's about a gap of like that, where the flooring ends and the wall begins. This just goes down into the ceiling above our kitchen. We found out that this work was not finished one night when our son, who loves water like a lot of autistic people do, decided to flood the bathroom. Water runs underneath the sink, goes down into the ceiling, destroys the light fixture in the kitchen, and damages the ceiling down there and all this sort of things. This is the kind of thing that you deal with when you deal with severe special needs. A lot of people, and again, I could go into so much more, things that you would find difficult to believe that are a daily reality, or could be, or always in the back of your mind wondering, well, when is this going to happen again? A lot of families, they can't handle it. Divorce rates are fairly high in special needs families. When we applied for guardianship, when our son turned 18, the people who were helping us at the county were very happy to do it. They told us, frankly, most people with these kids want to get them out of their house. They said, we are very happy to find people who want to keep their child, because a lot of times they just don't. They say, just get this kid out of my house. And I'm not judging anybody for that. I know what this is like. I know what it's like to live with this. And I know the stresses it causes. And I know some people can't deal with it, especially single parents would have a very difficult time, especially trying to hold down a job and deal with that. You've got to have some kind of help. We're going to keep him as long as we can. He's our son. We love him. And we want to care for him. But, and this is another area that special needs families have to deal with. We do face the reality of the fact that one of these days, as we get older, it's not going to be feasible probably for us to continue to care for him because we're not going to be physically capable of it. And that's, I hope, a long way off. But that day is coming. And we know other families we've seen, and I've seen the stories and I've seen the testimonies. People say, look, I'm getting older. My son, my daughter's 20, 30 years younger than me. What happens when I'm not here anymore? Who's going to take care of them? There are some assisted living facilities out there that can step into the gap. You don't hear such good things about a lot of these places. And don't get me wrong, there are many people working in special needs care that are wonderful people. They're very loving, they're very kind, and they are the salt of the earth. They don't get paid very much for what they do. They sacrifice. And they go through a lot. We've seen that over the years in education, in day programs, and all that kind of thing. God bless those people. But you always wonder what's going to happen to them when I'm not there anymore to watch over them. What's going to happen to him? We don't know. We're not going to have any control over that. Hopefully he will find people who will take care of him, at the very least. Make sure that he has what he needs. And we're going to try to see that that happens. But we don't know how he's going to be treated. And even if he is fed and he's clothed and he has a place to stay and he's safe at least, is anybody going to love him? You know, these special needs people, they may not be normal, but they have feelings. Those feelings can be hurt. He can be scared. He can get upset. There's times when it seems like he feels lonely. He stays by himself a lot. But sometimes he will just come down and sit with us when we're doing something. It just seems like he wants to be in the same room with us. These are the things that go through your head. You wonder about this. And you wonder about the inevitable day. What is he going to think one day when mom doesn't come to see him anymore? Or when dad doesn't come to see him anymore? He's not going to understand. Is he going to feel abandoned? Why doesn't mom or dad come anymore? And then inevitably, when neither one of us are there for him anymore, what is he going to think then? How is that going to make him feel? These are the kind of things that special needs parents and caregivers deal with. These are the thoughts in the back of their mind. This is their life. And there are times when you can sit down, or you just have to leave the room because something's going on, or you're worried that something's going to go on because it's happened before. You wonder how bad it's going to get. And you're trying to control your breathing. You're trying not to have a panic attack. You're trying to keep it under control because you're just so worked up over what's going to happen. My wife and I joked that the whole family probably has PTSD to some extent or another after dealing with so many things. Just the idea of taking him to a doctor's office wants to make me just run down the street sometimes. Back during the pandemic, he had a badly abscessed tooth that he either needed to have a root canal done on or extracted. And the problem is that you can't just do that with James. You can't just do that with a person like James. He has to be sedated. That requires an operating room. That requires medications, sedation medications. And during the height of the pandemic, all of the sedation medications were in very short supply. They were badly needed in emergency rooms and for the care of severely ill people. We understood that. But that did not change the fact that our son was in extreme pain and nothing could be done about it. And we tried every avenue open to us. He has a wonderful dentist, a man who's been dealing with him since he was very young. Another one of those salt of the earth type people. And he tried, and he couldn't get anything done. And it got to the point where I'm taking him to the emergency room just so they'll prescribe pain relief medications to help control the issue until we can get the work done. He woke my wife and I up several nights in a row, pointing, going, It got bad enough that he would pick things up and hit himself in the mouth trying to knock his own tooth out to make it stop. That's another aspect of it. So again, I don't tell you these things to try and tug the heartstrings or say, woe is me, or make you feel guilty if you're not living the same kind of life we are. I wouldn't wish that on people. There are days, again, where it's almost panic attack inducing when you go through a situation like this, when I have to come home and get him off my wife or get him out of a volatile situation. And I just kind of sit down and my heart's going 100 miles an hour and I'm just thinking, this is my life. And it's never going to change. Your mind goes to very dark places at times like that. I go into all of this for the purpose of asking your patience with special needs people and with their caregivers and their parents. So when you see somebody in the store that's acting up, making a scene, whatever, take a close look. If you have to, and we don't have to, we can do whatever we want, we can walk away. We're not required to stand in vast judgment. But if you can see that this person is not normal, have some compassion on them because they're not that way because they choose to be. Have some compassion on their families, on those people you see fighting with them, struggling with them, trying to get out because they don't want to be there. Believe me. There are anything else they could do except stand there and be stared at when they're in the middle of a war with their child and they're getting bit and kicked and punched and they're being screamed at. The last thing they really want is an audience. Trust me, they don't want to inconvenience you. It's just that contrary to what some people have said, they're unwilling to lock the kid up at home. And they're unwilling to stay locked away themselves. They try to grab for those moments when they can have some kind of normalcy, some kind of sanity. Please be patient. Please have compassion. If you don't know what to say, just smile. Or just walk away. Whatever you do, don't make it worse. Again, you cannot probably imagine what these people live with on a daily basis, what their life is like. The second appeal I would make tonight is to those of you who have been maybe looking to get involved in charities, or you're looking out to help out in your communities. You're looking to donate to good causes or whatever. Consider programs for severe autism and severe special needs people. Day programs, especially like adult daycare centers, that sort of thing. Many times these places, again, they're not paying their workers very much, and these people do God's work. If you can donate to a place like that, they'd appreciate it. If you can start something up in your area, or you can expand a program, Or you can just go into a school and say, what do you need? Do you need something to work with these kids? What would help? If you want to set up funding programs to help people make changes to their homes, security systems, especially that sort of thing. There are some government programs that do cover this kind of thing, at least a little, some of it, but the funding is very limited, and sometimes people are on a long list. There's more that needs to be done. Respite programs are a godsend for the parents and the caregivers who are working with these kids. The stress they're under, again, it would be great if more of them could get away for a little bit of time. You're never going to get it all out of your head. I mean, you can, the kids being taken care of from, let's say 9 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. You don't have to deal with it immediately, but still, you're always wondering, am I going to get a phone call? What's going to happen now? Am I going to have to go get them? And to be frank, you don't quite know what to do with yourself when you do have the free time, because you're so used to being on pins and needles or just constantly having something that has to be thought of at all times that it's difficult to just relax. Anything you can do to help these families, to help their children, to make life better for these special needs people and also for their parents and their caregivers is, again, doing God's work. So my goal, again, in all of this, just wanted to respond to some things I've seen. Just open that door just a crack. Let you have a look inside the life of a special needs family, especially severe special needs, and just ask for compassion, for understanding and patience. Thank you very much, and God bless.